Good morning. My name is Joyce Connell. I'm the school council coordinator for those of you who don't know me. This is my 25th year here at Pleasantville High School. And, thank you very much. Each of the ladies, as they come up to present their slides, will also introduce themselves and give a little background about their experiences here and other locations as well. This morning's presentation really is focusing on this college application process. The second portion is really unique to those selective colleges. So those are the colleges where a student who has an admissions rate, an application to college rate of about 20 or less. So those schools that really are very selective in terms of the number of students that they take in their application pool. So, feel free to stay for that portion. Know that it does not pertain to all colleges. It's a select few of colleges that really follow those different processes. And the reason we're doing that this year is that due to a lot of the changes in application reviews, most particularly test optional, it has really changed the landscape of how colleges are reviewing on the selective end, the applications, and we want families and students to be aware of that. So much of the information you're hearing today, we've shared with the students in class on Tuesday, and we'll continue to share with them as we meet with them individually. And I really cannot stress more how important it is for the students to meet with us continually and ongoing so that we ensure that their process is smooth and that they get the information that they need in a timely way. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to Megan Bradley. Megan is our new counselor here, but not new to the profession, and she will introduce herself and speak a little bit about the next slide.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Like Joyce said, my name is Megan Bradley. I am the new school counselor here. Very excited to be here. I've already had a very warm welcome from a lot of the staff and parents and students. So I'm excited to get to know all of the seniors this year, my caseload and really help them with this process. I know for them having 3 school counselors in 3 years is not ideal, and I understand that. And I definitely want to make this a smooth transition, as smooth as possible. All right, so let's get into the slide. First of all, we're going to kind of go over a few nuts and bolts. So you should have seen when you walked in there was a parent transcript release form, as well as a diploma name form. So if you didn't see those while you were coming in, please grab one of those and fill it out. We will collect those at the end. If they're all also on the website. So if you go on the website or Schoology, they're both on there. This is definitely important for us to be able to send transcripts to colleges. So it's a requested form. The student transcript review and approval, we are requesting that you and your student go into eSchool to take a look at their transcript. This is the document that will be sent to the colleges. So we want to make sure this is accurate and everything looks good. There will be courses in progress on the bottom of the transcript, which is also important to look at as schedules have changed a little bit throughout the last 2 weeks. Any questions on any of those things already? No? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Allie. Here you go.
Thank you. I'm Allison Winston. I'm one of the other high school counselors. This is my 5th year at Pleasantville High School and my 9th year in school counseling. So today I'm going to be speaking to you about the college application process. Recently, counselors went into all of the grade 12 English classes to talk about the college application process with our students, and we covered most of the pieces that we're going to be doing in the upcoming weeks and months towards getting those applications in and getting them prepared and ready. That presentation is also going to be posted on the school website and also on Schoology. Parents have access to Schoology, and it will be in their class of 2023 Schoology page. A lot of documents you'll find will be both duplicated on the website and on that Schoology page. So the college recommendation packet is important that we get that from students. We need that in order to write a letter of recommendation for students. So, and we ask that they give that to us in a timely manner so we have ample time to write a wonderful, comprehensive, meaningful letter for your student. And there is a parent page that we ask that you complete as part of that packet. So just to keep in mind that we need that packet before we can write a letter of recommendation. Counselor meetings, as Mrs. Connell mentioned earlier, it's something we really want to drive home. It's so important that students are in touch with their counselors, keeping them in the loop, that they're on the same page. If they haven't already set up a meeting with their counselor, I would have them do that as soon as possible. And before finalizing everything and sending out their applications, to also again check in with their counselor. It's just really important. We can make sure we have all of the I's dotted, T's crossed, and everything is getting in on time, the deadlines that they need to meet. The college essay, students have been working on this with their English 12 teachers, and we will also be offering workshops with Wendy Free that students can register through the Schoology webpage. So that will be upcoming, and that information will be on the Schoology webpage as I announced. Students can register for various time slots that they are available. 15-minute slot, they can sign up for up to 2. Okay, and now I will pass the mic to Rebecca Castellano, she's the financial aid.
Good morning, everybody. It's really nice to see everybody in one room and not on the screen today. So welcome back. I'm excited to see you all. So just a quick note in terms of the work with Wendy Freed and WordCraft. So yesterday, yesterday she did get back to me, and we're going to be starting with her next week. And it's going to be 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's going to be during different time spots. Tuesdays, I believe it's 11 to 12:30, and Thursdays we're going to be 1 to 2:30, and we'll adjust as needed. Students will be signing up. They will be hearing about this. We will be sending the communication out to you. So that's just a little bit of information on that. So again, Rebecca Castellano, I've been for 7 years. It doesn't feel like 7 years, and doing counseling for almost 20. So I'm very excited to be here. Things have certainly changed. What hasn't changed, or the piece that we have to keep in mind when we talk about college admission, is money and financial aid. So on October 4th at 7 p.m., and we will pepper you with information. But on October 4th at 7 p.m., we will have Ryan Chapoy from Iona University now do a Zoom. And we just found that that was a better way to get the message out there. 7 p.m. on Zoom, we'll send you a link to register, and we will be talking about the differences in financial aid, what you need to look out for, what forms you need to fill out. And yes, it can be cumbersome, but yes, it is important. If you have any questions, you're always welcome to reach out to your counselor. We're not the financial aid experts, but we can always give you information or encourage you to call colleges and universities. They will always answer your financial aid questions. Fafsa is a federal application, the free application for federal student aid. It has opened up for registration. If you've never done it, welcome. It is the financial aid form that's considered the federal form or the universal form that all schools will need to have completed and submitted by their deadline. October 1st is when the form actually opens up. Parents and students both have responsibility to those forms. There are pins that need to be put in place in order to sign off on the forms. All that information is on the FAFSA website. Word of caution, FAFSA is free. The URL is the .gov, not a .com. So if you're being asked to submit payment to help with, move on, call us with the .gov, it's free. So just a little heads up on that. CSS profile, that is what I call the sneak peek at finances for private colleges and universities. Some will ask for it prior to the submission of the FAFSA. They're getting at or looking for information about assets that won't necessarily show up on the FAFSA. If your school requires it, you must have it in. Some schools will ask for the FAFSA or the CFS well in advance of the FAFSA. So just be aware. My takeaway is always As you are looking at admissions, you should also be looking at the financial aid website. You think they run parallel tracks, but they're slightly different in terms of deadlines. And colleges are not very forgiving with deadlines. Applications need to be in on time. So as the students are doing admission, please have those chats with the financial aid officers. They're more than happy to help and give you information about what they can and can't make available and what deadlines you need to be very aware of. College aid, scholarships, and grants. Please know that we do post everything that comes to our office in Naviance. There's a small tab in Naviance that says scholarships and grants. Students can click there, find what's appropriate to them, go ahead and apply to those. A lot of the local organizations will put scholarships out in the spring. So you can start looking for those in April. We encourage students to fill it out. Some of our kids say, there you go. Some of our students say, but why bother? It's only $200 or it's only $500. Well, that's a textbook potentially. That's payment towards a laptop potentially. And if you get a couple of them, that's $400, not just $200. So encourage them, ask them to go ahead and fill those out. Common application. The application that the majority of our students will be using to apply to colleges and universities, they actually have a really well-equipped financial aid tab. So if you look on the website itself, bring your eyes to the right, there's a big old tab there that says financial aid, scholarships and grants. You click on that, and it gives you a wealth of information regarding federal and locals as well. So I would encourage you to take a look at those. Federal and state aid, such as so there's an organization within New York State called the Higher Education Services Corp. That URL is active when we publish the PowerPoint online. That's a resource for all New York State residents. Ryan Dupuy will also talk more about that in terms of what's available within New York State. But feel free to take a look at that website as well. It has a wealth of information. And finally, another way that folks do fund colleges are private loans. There are certainly pluses and minuses to this. This is always a conversation to be had with your families. But just to be aware that Ryan will cover that as well on October 4th at 7 p.m. on that Zoom. At the end of the day, what we encourage is an honest conversation with families and students regarding what is a good financial fit, not just the admissions fit, but a financial fit. And while we don't want your students to rake over your tax returns, that's none of their business, it is a good idea to have a good conversation about what you can and can't do so that nobody's upset at the end of the process. So thank you and welcome.
Oh, Joyce.
I want to introduce myself. My name is Cheryl Thomas. I'm one of the school counselors here. This is my 21st year in Pleasantville and 24th year in school counseling. Very hard to believe for me, but I can believe it when I have to carry these around with me all the time and I have to wear them. I use these reading glasses. But anyway, I've seen a lot in school counseling. I've seen a lot of different trends in college admissions. Out in very many talks will discuss some of the challenging things that are going on. What I'm going to discuss is the stress, managing the stress of this process. So when we pushed into the classrooms, we asked your students, how many of you, be honest with us, feel stressed about this upcoming process? And a lot of them raised their hands. And then we asked them, how many of you feel like your parents are really stressed about this process? And I feel like all of them. And it's a real thing, it's a real thing. There is a lot of stress regarding the process. It's not as fun as it seems. My daughter is now junior year in high school. I can finally empathize with you completely about how you're feeling. I'm finally at that point where it's like, I'm living it and I get it. Some of the things that you can do to help manage this stress, we talk to the students about asking their parents for what they need. Like they should be honest and open with you about what they're looking for from you and kind of what they don't want from you. We were discussing with the students, perhaps setting aside a time to talk about college admissions with your family, almost scheduling it, which sounds kind of crazy, but I feel like it eliminates the need for every day, being like, did you do this? Did you see your counselor? Did you hand this in? You know, and it becomes like almost like nagging. And, you know, I do it myself and I know, and I have to catch myself a lot of times because that doesn't work. You know, you can see the responses from your child, you can kind of like read what they're feeling. So if you set aside a time, maybe once or twice a week, so that you can discuss this for a certain period of time, I think that that's great. I do think that when you do go on those college visits, which I have been doing with my daughter, I think that that time in the car is a great time to talk because you've got a captive audience, right? So I feel like that's a great time to kind of discuss some of your concerns and some of the things that, you know, are on your mind. Also just perhaps you can be someone that could be the transportation person when you're setting up the college visits. You could be someone to help them manage the deadlines. So this is a lot for them to manage because not only are they doing the college process, but they're doing their sport, their activity, their schoolwork. So they have a lot going on. I know it's very tempting for some of you, and I do this myself, and I have to catch myself to do for them. I've had a lot of parents call me and start asking me questions on the Common App, but I feel like I love answering questions from you, but I want to hear those questions from the student. We give them plenty of time to do so. And a lot of the students after our presentation have been making appointments with us, which I love because I want to see them. I definitely want to answer your questions too, but it shouldn't be about the mechanics of the Common Application. The students should be getting that from us. So I definitely, you know, think that that's important for you to maybe help them set deadlines, just kind of gently reminding them, having open conversations about any kind of restraints that you have for that in the process. Like, for example, my daughter really wants to go out to California. She wants to go to Florida. She loves the warm weather. She loves the beach. And that's great for her. I don't think that's a reason why she should go to college in those places. And I don't think that it's going to work for me and my family. It may work for yours, and that's great too. But just if you have those constraints, I think be very clear about those constraints from the very beginning so that we're not applying to schools and all of a sudden saying, well, you can't go there. I'm not letting you go that far. So do that beforehand. And especially financial constraints too. You know, obviously, college costs have been exorbitant over the past 10, 15 years, and they're rising. So to talk about that open and honest and making sure that students are applying to places where either they forget scholarship dollars or, you know, that it's financially reasonable. I think those things can really help so that we're not super disappointed. Also, just your modeling and coping skills are really important because they're going to look to you and see what your reactions are, and you're going to feed off of that. So when later on things come up where maybe their wait list is somewhere, they didn't get in somewhere. You know, if you get more upset than they are, then they're definitely going to be upset, and it's going to be really hard to rein that back in. So to kind of help put some reality to some of that, and to be able to kind of calm some of those anxieties, I think would be important for you. Obviously, we as counselors are here to help with any of that. So if you need help, which any of that kind of stuff, we can step into some of that too and help you out. So definitely reach out to your student counselor if you have any of those questions or concerns. Okay, I think now I'm going to see if there are any questions. I don't think there's any questions via the Zoom, so we can take audience questions. Anyone have any questions on anything that we said or anything about the process? Continue.
Child has a list of colleges and those colleges take early action to do apply for early action.
I'll answer this one and then I'll share, you know, the rest of the questions. I believe that you certainly can. Early action is a great way, obviously, to get your application out there early and show the colleges that you're ready. There are some schools that are super competitive that perhaps you may be putting yourself in a more competitive pool of students. I think what's important too is to ask colleges, you know, and the student can come in and speak with the counselor. We can kind of counsel them through that. You know, sometimes early action can put you in a more competitive pool. And that's something to be mindful of if you're not the most competitive student for that school. So certainly you can do early action. I would do it with caution. You don't necessarily have to do every school early action. And I would definitely gather my data before I do so. And the counselor can certainly help. And sometimes a phone call to the college can help with that too.
And then early decision is you're locking into that one school.
Right. So early decision is a binding agreement. You apply early, usually by November 1st or the 15th. You get an early response, typically in December 15th. But you are bound to that school and that you have to rescind. If you send it out any other applications, you have to take back those applications. Yeah.
So can you repeat the question so the
Sure.
council can hear?
Yeah. So you're saying that if you apply early action or early decision, are you also getting financial aid offers during that time? Is that what you're asking? Right. Does the acceptance letter include the money that they're going
So I'll go ahead and answer it. It really depends on the school. And so some will be giving money with that acceptance. Some will say you're going to have to wait until the financial aid packages come out. So it really is school dependent. That's why it's always encouraged before you go ahead and do an ED or an early decision, reach out to the school to find out what their take is in terms of financial aid. Super selective schools are not giving merit aid. That money is not going to be available. They might fund other reasons, but they're not going to fund because you sit at the top of the class or you do very well academically. It's assumed that everybody's applying there is doing very well academically. So it's a buyer beware in terms of that. And you raise a really good point. We're back in person now. And the other exciting part about that is college reps are back in person. So we now have representatives from how many schools this year? At least 50 schools that are, right? That are registered college reps.
Oh, well, yeah, there's physics that have been posted, but it's fluid, so
It's
every
very
day.
fluid. It's changing. My point being, college admissions counselors are coming here from those individual schools. And so your student can always ask questions regarding the school, the fit, the admissions deadline. It's a way of personalizing that application a little bit. We post everything live in Naviance, so when the representatives are going to visit, it's posted, we announce it, we encourage it. We really encourage your seniors to come out and visit for a quick chat.
One important thing that you can do though before you even hear from the colleges is you can go on to two possible calculators. One is on the college itself, financial aid website. There's a calculator called the net price calculator. Every school is required to have that on their website. When you go in there, it's going to ask you specific information. It's not saved anywhere. It's just giving you an estimate of what you can expect in terms of your financial aid. Okay. So that will give you a guideline in terms of, is that really what my family can afford and what I might be able to get from that college in terms of need. It will not speak to any merit money. It's just based on need. Some of the private schools are now also using an online calculator called Intuition. And that will also be included on some of the documentation that you'll see from Tufts that I'll hand out later on. So those are two opportunities for families to know in advance, not that you're applying blindly without any awareness of what your need will be. And then, of course, it could change based on the college, but it's a guideline about what you can expect. Sure, there's a question. We're going to check the question online, but in the meantime, you have a question?
Yeah, I think last year, there was a vision that was, I guess, colleges that serve special needs students differently, facilities. Is there going to be something like that planned in the fall? So.
Okay, so the question is, in the fall, we will be doing a Zoom for colleges specific to learning needs for students. Right, program. At this moment, it hasn't been planned for the fall. It's certainly something we can discuss as a team. There are those specific schools that do it themselves as well. So if you work with your counselor and you're interested in a specific school, we can reach out to find out when they're doing some of their presentations. For example, I know myself and some of my colleagues have been participating in many of the online Zooms for counselors, and they also do a program for parents and students, which talks about that particular college or colleges if they're in a consortium and there are different types of admission criteria. So it's also helpful to look on the website of those schools to see if they're doing something either on their own or with other colleges in their consortium. Another question? Okay, so there's another question. They say, I know there is no ranking, and I know that our school's profile is sent to colleges, but I'm wondering if the counselor in their letter or elsewhere indicates that the student is in the top 10% of their class or top quarter, etc. Thank you. So, I mean, I can answer some of this, and if anyone else wants to jump in, they can certainly do so. We definitely, if the student is going to be valedictorian, salutatorian, we see that they're in the top 5%. We certainly do mention that in our letters because we just want the colleges to kind of have an idea of where the student stands. I mean, they can also see in our profile, they look at the grade distributions and they look at the classes and they look at the grades in the classes. They can certainly figure that out as well. But we will also speak to that in our letter of recommendation, just to give the colleges an idea of where the student stands. Anyone have any more questions?
So how was the transcript and the letter of recommendation going to Common App? The kids ask for letters of recommendation and you put the transcripts in the Common App? Like, does it have to be done for every, do they have to tell you all the schools they're applying to and it gets put in?
So the question, I'm gonna repeat it because we're for the attendees on Zoom. The question was, where do the letters of recommendation and transcripts go in terms of the Common App and Naviance? So the Common App is the student's application. They push out their application through the Common App. We have them link the Common App with Naviance, with their Naviance accounts. But our documents are pushed out through Naviance, and that includes the school profile, the high school transcript, and the counselor letter recommendation and the teacher letters of recommendation. So students will be requesting that directly through Naviance. Okay.
Do they have to recommend, they have to request for every individually or just once?
Yes, so they during our presentation, when we went into classrooms, we explained to students that they need to go in and request their teacher letters of recommendation. So once they finalize their college list, they met with their counselor and are ready to request those letters. They can go into their Naviance accounts and select the teacher that they would like to write letters for them, and then they have to choose the colleges that they want that teacher to be able to send that letter out to, depending on the college and how many letters they require. They may need to add an additional teacher. Maybe the college requires 2 letters of recommendation for the teacher. And maybe they only accept 1, so they have to be mindful about which teacher they want to write for that school specifically. And they also have to request transcript. So they do have to go into Naviance and request that their transcripts be sent to the colleges that they're applying to. So that's those pieces go to Naviance. Those are our pieces. But their application goes to Common App, and it's very important that they get their student parts, the parts they're responsible for, in before that deadline. They're a little bit more flexible, receiving things from the school, the teacher letters a little bit later, but the student application has to be in before that deadline.
And if they have someone from outside and they want a letter of recommendation, that's that.
So if after, conversations with their counselor and, it seems to make sense that this, add a benefit to their application, there is a place in a Common App where they can add an other recommender. If it's someone outside of the building that's not a faculty member, there is a place in Common App where that can be done. I think it's important that the student have a conversation with their counselor to see if that's something that would be advantageous and supplement their application, or if it's something that, may not be necessary. So I think it's important that students have an open conversation with their counselor about that as well.